Matching UFC champions to ReZero characters. Let's get into it. Flyweight, Joshua Van, Garfield Tinsel. This one's really easy. They're both young, capable, talented, powerful guys. Joshua Van's very composed. Garfield, they're very composed. I don't know if Garfield's that composed, but they have great victories, with Joshua Van, he beat Pantoja, it's questionable. He has the questionable win with the arm break, but he comes back, beats Tyra dominantly. So he's showing, he's a talented guy. And with Garfield, he beats Kurgan, but it's not really Kurgan. It's the corpse version of Kurgan. So it's like, did he really beat him? The real one probably would have crushed him. And you could say the same for Joshua Van with Pantoja. So just young, powerful guys with questionable but questionable but credible, questionable but great wins over legends. Bantamweight, Peter Yan, Beatrice. This one really works for me. Peter Yan kind of spent a few years in shame after the Aljo loss. He got he lost because he was disqualified for an illegal strike. A lot of people look down on him. Went on a losing streak, but he's back. I mean, he beats Marab, a dominant champion. And it's this beautiful, comeback story. And I think it's the same with Beatrice because she spent years of her life. I mean, she's 400, just sitting in that library waiting for the person to come. And there is no person. And Subaru helps her realize. And so once she comes out, it's a beautiful story because she realizes she doesn't need anyone. And, they're both comeback revival stories. And besides that, they're both just smaller, undersized, very technical, skilled fighters that everyone likes, I'd say. Featherweight, Volk and Wilhelm. This is mainly because of their age. They're older guys getting up there. I don't know. Volk's what, 38? Probably should retire soon. Wilhelm's just kind of on the sidelines, not really a primary fighter. Just talented, fun guys who out of their prime, I'd say. You know, m- Grinders. Really work to get where they are. Volk is not. Volk's not. The most he's an undersized guy, so he worked a lot to get where he is, and it's a beautiful story. And I think Wilhelm's a little bit the same because he didn't get the sword saint. He had to work. So yeah. Lightweight, Reinhard, Ilya. Yeah, this one's kind of obvious. They're both dominant figures. The battles, fights already won before they even show up. The undefeated. Just very like dominating figures. There's a reason this comparison really works so well. And it's because Taporia he just has that mindset of, the battle's already won. And with Reinhardt, he just knows it because he's the most powerful person. I debated giving it to Islam really, but I think Islam really fits Roswell better because it's kind of a mental game with Islam. He's just so suffocating with the grappling and the mental. You saw what he did to JDM. I mean, JDM looked lost round 4, round 5. You could see it in his face. I mean, he had no idea where he was, man. And I think it's the same with Roswell, his mental games. He's just so, well informed, and it's just this psychological game a lot of the time, and not just, the physical dominating aspect like it is, with Taporia. Middleweight, Subaru and Sean Strickland. This one I like this one a lot. They're both underdogs, guys that aren't supposed to be where they are. Sean, he just beat Hamza. That was a crazy upset. Hamzat's this undefeated guy. I think Subaru does a lot of the same things. He wins when he's not supposed to, and that is because of return by death. But Subaru's also he just keeps coming back. I mean, he could give up, but it's the same with Sean. I mean, he comes back. First things first. He beats Izzy. Not supposed to do that, and then he loses to DDP twice. He's probably not gonna see the belt again. People count him out against Fluffy Hernandez, and what does he do? He knocks him out. So and he gets his title shot back. He beats Hamza. He's just a guy that's an underdog really a lot of the time, and he comes back and wins fights. And I think that's what Subaru is. I think that's what ReZero is. It's about the underdog and coming back when you're not supposed to. And I think this comparison works really well because of that. Light heavyweight Kriush and Goldberg. I'm laughing at all of these, but this one's kind of funny. They're both just boring. Boring but capable fighters, competent. Goldberg gets the knockout over Yuri, the fan favorite, and a lot of people don't like him for that. But I mean, he did what he's supposed to do, on one leg, knocks out Yuri. It's not really his fault. But he's a boring guy, he wins the belt and he's like, do we really remember him? Sean Strickland's doing all this and then Goldberg's like, wow, okay, he won. Krish really the same way. She's competent. Like if you told me your favorite character was Kriush or your favorite fighter was Oldberg, I'd be like, really? That's your favorite? I mean, like they're both great. Competent in their own rights, but favorites, I don't know about that. Heavyweight, Rom and Aspinall. This is just kind of potential, man. Aspinall's dominant. He doesn't. He's supposed to fight Jones, and he doesn't get to fight Jones, and he's interim champ, and now he's actual champ, and so he's coming back. He's getting ready to fight Gon, and the whole disqualification thing happens, and it's like ah. And with Rom, she loses her horn. Oh, and, and with it, she's maybe what top five, top 10 fighters in the reservers. So it's like there's always that potential. If Aspinall got to beat Jones, or if he beats Gon, and then he goes to fight Pereira at the White House, it's like oh wow, Aspinall's record's really climbing, his only UFC losses, the one to Curtis Blades, with the whole leg injury, and it's like, we have a real argument for heavyweight. I shouldn't say argument for heavyweight GOAT, but I mean, he beats Pereira, he beats Gon, keeps stacking wins, he's got the chance to build an ultimate resume, but instead, he gets the eye poke, and he's just kind of sitting there in the background, like being cuckolded as Pereira and Gon fight for the interim belt. And Rom, she's kind of just yeah, she's just sidelined. She's still powerful. She's not completely weak, but she's so much potential that she's just not able to fulfill. And I think it's the same with Aspinall. Let me know what you think. I left out Gaethje because I couldn't really think of one, and he's interim champ, so I didn't feel obligated to put him. Also, I didn't do women's MMA because I couldn't really think of any either. But let me know what you think of my comparisons. I think some are stronger than others, or any video ideas or anything. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. And yeah, subscribe if you like this blend of UFC and ReZero content. This is the second video I've done, the first one like this. But I'd be down to make more.